Hey guys, Dr. Sabertooth here, and today I was thinking about something. Pixar movies, and more specifically, how I would rank some of these movies, or more specifically, how I would put some of these in a tier list with every movie from their first movie to their latest movie, at the time of the release, of course. And so, I decided to sit down and spend about an hour and 30 minutes just picking apart each movie to see where I would put it in a tier list. So, that's what I did. I sat down and decided to put all of these into a tier list. Enjoy! Alright, so here's the tier list right here. It's in rough chronological order. The site initially started it off all mixed up, so I put it back in order, but I didn't feel like Googling the actual release order, so I put it in what I assume is the right order. If I got one wrong, who fucking cares? Let's begin. Alright, Toy Story. This is the start. Now, Toy Story is a pretty good film, honestly. Like, the first one, it's got some really funny moments. I think overall it's a unique movie, especially for the time of release. Its animation is a bit dated, but I think that adds to the charm. We're just gonna put it in A tier for now. Also, I just realized B tier is above A for some reason. We're just gonna... There you go, A tier. It's an A tier movie. Alright, A Bug's Life. Fuck this movie. This movie fucking sucks. It has a shit plot. All of the characters are boring, annoying, or just infuriating to watch. For a movie about bugs and having the possibilities of an animated film where bug society exists, and you could have so many things, and all they do with it is have one city, one single ass city that takes advantage of it. The rest of the time it's spent in the goddamn ant colony, where the background is either green or fucking like beige because they're on dry ass dirt. God, the plot fucking sucks in this movie. The only interesting thing I will give this movie is the fact that the villain's motivation is based on the fact that he knows that the ants as a collective could beat him, so that's why he picks on them. But that's the only interesting thing, and it doesn't even go that far. Yeah, this movie just fucking sucks. It's going in F tier. Alright, Toy Story 2. This is going to be controversial here. I think Toy Story 2 is a pretty good movie. But it's only a B tier movie. I think it's good. I think how it expands on the Toy Story universe, it does good for that. But overall, I just don't really enjoy it as much as Toy Story 1. And I think that mostly boils down to the fact that it's just, I don't know. Toy Story 2, it's one of those movies where I'm just not the biggest fan of. The fact that a lot of the humor in it falls flat. I know that's not really a big critique, but I don't really care about the journey they go on. Specifically when it comes to Buzz and all the other side characters. Because Woody's, it's pretty decently done. But Buzz's and all those other people, I don't know. I just don't really find it funny. I kind of find it a bit annoying how the payoff to a plot line is just a Star Wars reference, and they don't really do anything clever with that. I do think it has some pretty decent animation. It's definitely better than the first movie, I'll give it that. But also, I gotta list probably one of the most controversial opinions I have. Jesse's backstory, it just didn't do it for me. I don't know. Just wasn't that sad in my opinion. It kind of felt forced. Monsters Inc. Instant S tier. This movie is, it's just such a blast. I love this movie. I physically cannot think of a thing I don't like about it. Like, in all honesty, I just think it's a perfect movie. It's the first S tier of the list. It's got a great antagonist. It's got a great story. It's got great character dynamics. It's hilarious. And it's actually got really good animation. And even today, Finding Nemo. Now, this movie is pretty good, I think. It's got some great story beats to it. Like, I think the message about parenting is pretty well done. The water animation is actually phenomenal. Like, even today it still looks good, and it was so good, in fact, that when they were making this movie, they had to actually tone back the effects because it looked so realistic next to the cartoony fish. So they physically, like, toned back the realism for it. So it could have looked even better. And we're going to put it... We're going to put it right around... I don't know if it's here or easier. Let's see. Here we go. I got a coin right here. Get a coin right here. Heads, it will go top of B tier. Tails, it will go to A tier. Tails, alright. A tier. Let's go. Alright. The Incredibles. Here we got another fucking banger movie. It's going in S tier. It does beat Monsters, Inc. in my opinion, which is something, because that movie was, like, phenomenal in every way, but Incredibles... I can't think of a better terminology, but it's just fucking incredible. Like, it's such a unique movie, because you would think for a movie about superheroes, it would be all wacky and have fight scenes and jokes, but it's surprisingly serious and down to earth. And it's just got such good writing to it. And also, I really dig the 60s aesthetic because it's not in your face, so it doesn't feel like you're looking at a movie that's trying to force in your face that takes place in the 60s. And I think that's the most interesting part, because it takes place in the 60s, and for the longest time, I didn't know that. I just assumed it took place in modern day, because this movie doesn't date itself, and it can be set whenever you feel like would work for it. And its villain, holy shit. Bro, Syndrome, one of the best written villains in all of animation, I gotta say. He's got a fucking amazing backstory. He's got a great motive. His actions, they are great. He is menacing, but he can also be funny at times. That's the thing about him. Alright, here we go. Cars. Now, Cars 1, people give shit to a lot, right? But, here's the thing. It's got a really predictable story, but I won't say that's a bad thing, because in all honesty, it's just nice to watch Lightning McQueen, specifically, because, like, he goes from a selfish asshole in the first, like, 10, 15, 20 minutes of the film, and then you just watch him keep getting beat down and down until eventually he starts to warm up to the citizens of Radiator Springs, and he begins to soften up, and we see his gradual decline from snarky asshole to actual likable guy. Like, I think it's pretty well done. Now, granted, the Cars universe in world building doesn't make sense, and it's kind of really badly done, but I think I'll give it slack for that because of the fact that I think Cars 1 just has a strong narrative, honestly, even if it is derivative of many other sports films. Alright, Ratatouille. Alright, surprise, surprise, we got another fucking S tier, baby! Here we go, Ratatouille. What's there to say about this film that hasn't already been said? It's just phenomenal. It's got a great message. It's got phenomenal animation. It's just such a good film. It was also written by the same person who wrote The Incredibles, Brad Bird, which I think you could tell because those two movies, despite one having a more realistic art style and one having a more stylized art style, they feel really similar. And it's just like, it's such a good movie. Now, granted, this is a movie that I feel like it's an acquired taste, because for a Pixar movie, it is pretty dull. Not in, like, a negative sense. There isn't that high of stakes. Like, compare Ratatouille to something like The Incredibles. The Incredibles had a of, like, the world ending and, like, robots and superheroes, and Ratatouille is just like Remy wanting to prove himself as a chef, and more than just like a typical, like, filthy, disgusting fucking rat. And we got Linguini, who's just this guy trying to live his life, and he's suddenly put on top, and he has to deal with the sudden, like, struggle of gaining fame and the consequences of that. It's such a tightly written film that even if it doesn't have high stakes, it's still enjoyable, and it's just entertaining. Alright, WALL-E. Here we go. This movie, a lot of people will say this, right? That this movie peaks in its first 20 minutes, and that the first 20 minutes should have been its own film. I will disagree, because the robots are fucking cute. Okay? And also, I just dig the future aesthetic, and I think the ending really wraps around to its messaging, even if that messaging does get a bit preachy at points. But for the most part, I think it's a solid movie. Although I do agree that the first 20 minutes were so good that the second half just doesn't feel as good. Which is why, despite the fact that it's a great movie, I'm only going to put it in A tier. Alright, now we have Up. This is the movie known as that movie with the opening credits that makes people cry. And a pretty decent adventure after that. Now, I think Up is actually a better movie than people give it credit for, because of the fact that everybody always says it peaks at the first 10 minutes. And, well, they're not wrong, but the second half isn't bad. It's just a fun adventure, honestly. Like, it's just a fun, wacky adventure, and it's just, I don't know how to describe it. It's just good. I'm gonna put it in B tier, though, just for one reason. I think, for the most part, it does get a little muddled in the journey of just trying to add so much stuff to it that it becomes muddled in the middle. And plus, it just kind of feels off how it goes from, like, this charming little movie to, like, some big action thing at the end. So yeah, that's why it's going in B tier, but I do say it's the best of the B tiers so far. Alright, Toy Story 3. Alright, this movie is known as the one where the ending is sad and made people cry. Now, I will give it this. The ending is kind of sad, but bear with me here, right? I mean, I thought it was kind of sad, but, like, I don't know. I just, like, this isn't even, like, one of those things of, oh, you had to be there. You had to grow up with the series to be sad about it. Because, no, I grew up watching Toy Story 1 and 2, and I saw Toy Story 3 in theaters, and I don't know, I felt kind of sad, but I didn't really get much out of it. But besides that, that's just the ending. But the rest of the movie, I think it's great. It's got some great animation. I think Lotso as a villain is actually really well done for the Toy Story series, and I think he has a great motive. And also, I just like how it's like a darker film, to be honest. And, yeah, it's a fitting conclusion. yeah, you know, the conclusion to the Toy Story series. And definitely won't be ruined by a follow-up made almost, like, 10 years later. Brave. This movie's shit. It's going above A Bug's Life, though. It's got decent animation, like, I'll give it that, but it's just fucking Brother Bear, but with the overdone trope of the princess who doesn't want to get into an arranged marriage. It's fucking, I hate this movie. It's so stupid. Its attempts at comedy fall flat. Its world building is kind of boring. It's just not interesting. I think all the characters are annoying, or just the most flat pieces of bread I've ever seen. It's just not a good movie, but I'll give it this. At least it's not A Bug's Life. Alright, Cars 2. Cars 2. Oh boy, okay. So this movie shouldn't have been called Cars 2. I don't think I have to state that, because I think everybody knows that this shouldn't have been called Cars 2. This is basically one of those Mater's Tall Tales shorts as a fucking movie, with some bits of Lightning McQueen. Because take everything I liked about the first one and just fucking remove that. Just get rid of it. And make Mater the spotlight, make him written 10 times more annoying, add in all the tropes of cliche spy movies, and also Make it 2 fucking hours for some reason. I have no goddamn reason why. Cars 2 is 2 fucking hours. This movie sucks, but at least I can have a slight ironic enjoyment, which is something I can say above Brave and A Fucking Bug's Life. Also, it's got good action, I guess. Alright, Monsters University. Now, as a prequel to Monsters, Inc., how does it fare? I think it does surprisingly good, honestly. Like, surprisingly good. Monsters, Inc. felt like Sully's movie with Mike as a side character. Monsters University feels like Mike's movie with Sully as a side character. And honestly, that's really interesting. It gives a nice shift in perspectives. And also, we get to see a glimpse into the monster world, so we get more world building. And also, the main thing that I think most people talk about, Mike's arc. Oh my god, it's so good. Because it's realistic, but also still not pessimistic. Because the main message of the movie is that, yeah, you may not be able to do everything you want, even if you try hard enough, but there's still options for other things. It's not just saying, don't try at all, nothing matters. It's saying, the things you may want to do may not come to you just because, but there's always other options. Like, it's such a good message for both kids and adults, honestly. But I think the only thing that really holds it back is the fact that at the end of the day, this great message and great character dynamics is all locked behind a pretty basic college movie. And that's not really too big of an issue, except for the fact that because it's locked behind all of this and it has the whole scare games part, which takes up, like, the entire middle of the movie, which could have been spent on more character building, it holds it back for me, which is why it's still a B-tier movie, but it's the highest of the B tiers. I don't care what y'all have to say. It's the highest of the B tiers. Inside Out. Oh, y'all are gonna fucking hate me for this. C tier. Now, I know what you guys must be saying. Oh, it's so good. It's one of PIXAR's best. It's so emotional. It made me cry. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't do it for me. I felt like the imagination world, it's beautifully animated. It had some creative ideas. I think it could have been expanded on more. I think the world building is also kind of shit in this movie because it's just not explained well. And it's mostly just watching the pretty visuals that have correlations to things in your brain.
Alright, sorry the audio is a lot worse here, but I'm editing this and I just realized how much of a dumbass take this is, because that's exactly what the movie is trying to do. It's just trying to show you fun visuals to represent what your brain does. I don't know why, when I recorded this, I thought this was a valid criticism, but just remember that this is a stupid criticism and just ignore this shit. Still stand on it being a C-tier movie, though.
But other than that, it's not really built upon well. And also, the main thing is I can't get behind any of the emotions because of the fact that Riley as a character isn't a character. She's just a vessel being controlled by the emotions. So it's not like her actually feeling things, it's just them making her feel things. And it's hard for her to be a well-written character when you know that she's not, like, written as a character. She's written as, like, a... Oh my god, I just had the sudden realization. Would this film be considered a fucking mecha? Like, is this film a mecha? Because it involves people controlling a bigger thing, and it has, like, buttons and levers, so it's technically mechanical. Is this film like a mecha film? Would y'all consider Inside Out to be a mecha film? Let me know. Back to what I was saying, though. Inside Out, it has cool ideas, but I think the emotion really falls flat when you know that our main character, or at least what we see as the main character, doesn't really have character. Like, Riley doesn't work the same way Andy in Toy Story does. Because sure, Andy is used as a plot device in those movies, but at least he's written to just not have a lot of screen time, while Riley is given a lot of screen time, and still just as, if not less, developed than Andy, even though she appears more in the entire movie than Andy ever did in the entire trilogy. So yeah, it's a C tier movie. I think it's pretty decent, but it's a C tier. Alright, Good Dinosaur. Oh god. I don't know if I should be ranking this, honestly, because these right here are all movies. This right here is a glorified tech demo, because the environments in this movie, they're phenomenal. They're some of the best looking environments that have ever been put into an animated film so far. They're just breathtaking. But it's so hard to get into the movie when there's these beautiful, realistic environments that look like matte paintings or even real-life photos at some point, and there's just some really fucking awful-looking dinosaur plopped over it. Now, that's not really a thing on the critique of the animation of them, because I think the dinosaurs are actually well animated and have great scale textures and everything, but the art style does not fit at all. It's like, imagine if the Sonic movie, instead of having a slightly integrated, realistic Sonic, if you just had a cartoony Sonic running around in the real world. It'd look fucking atrocious. And that's what this movie is. It kind of looks bad with these hyper-realistic environments with shitty cartoony dinos. Now, on their own, each of these would be good. If it was realistic dinosaurs with a realistic background, it would look good. Or if it was cartoony dinosaurs with a cartoony background, it would look good. But ignoring that, there's a lot more wrong with this film. It's fucking boring. Like, holy shit. How can you make a movie about literal fucking dinosaurs a snooze fest? Like, I don't know. I don't like this movie. It's just so boring. It's not like Ratatouille where it's low stakes. It's just boring because the characters in the scenes where they're just sitting down and talking aren't even interesting. They're just so generic. And you got Arlo. His whole gimmick is that he's a dinosaur who's scared, and then you got his dad who fills out the dad role, and then you got his siblings, who all they do is get like 2 lines about teasing him about being small or some dumb shit like that, and then you got his mom, who is just there. I don't even think she gets a line from what I remember of the film, but yeah, it's just not. It's not a good movie. I don't like it. I would say I like it better than Brave, because I'm gonna be honest, I just don't like Brave. Alright, here we go. Finding Dory. This film. This film sure is a film. Let's put it in C tier. It's just Finding Nemo, but remove everything good about that movie. It's not good. This movie right here, I feel like this is a bit of a fair comparison. Finding Dory is what people who don't like Finding Nemo think the movie is like, because it's got annoying characters, a really tropey, predictable plot. It goes nowhere. There's nothing really earned. And the ending is so stupid, because you get the cliche, oh, Dory has to choose between a real family or her found family. But no, she just gets to choose both. Everybody wins. It's boring. This movie sucks. But I will say it's got really good animation. I think it does have a few moments I liked. So that's why it's in C tier and not D tier. Alright, Cars 3. Cars 3 is actually surprisingly good. But, oh, a lot of people call this the best in the series. I call it middle of the C tier. Because Lightning McQueen is back to being an interesting character. I will give it that. It's back to being about racing, which I will give it that. It's got phenomenal animation. But the movie is basically a 2-hour training montage, and the training doesn't pay off because Lightning doesn't even win the fucking race. It's such bullshit. I don't even think there's been a time in this franchise where Lightning McQueen has won a Piston Cup or any sort of trophy or race on screen. he always loses in the movies, yet we always hear about how he always wins. It's bullshit. Let him win a race just once. And also, I don't get it. This movie adds way more questions, like, where do the new cars come in? Do people build them? Do cars build cars? Do cars upgrade themselves? It just adds more things, like, and it talks about how lightning is getting old, but, like, do cars age? I don't know. They don't fucking answer that, but yeah, so middle of the C tier. It's got some great moments, but middle of C tier. Alright, Coco. Oh boy. This movie's really good, honestly. I will put it at B tier. This movie is just great, honestly. Now, it's got some great aspects of the fact that it's a movie about a holiday that isn't the traditional Halloween, Christmas, or hell, even Easter. It's about a holiday that's specifically made for a specific culture, which I think is nice because that gets that more representation. And also, okay, take my opinion with a grain of salt because as a white person, I may be wrong about this, but I think that this movie has represented the holiday pretty well, honestly. Now, you can debate that in the comments, honestly. I'm just saying right now, I don't know, but from what I have researched, it does it pretty well, and it does it pretty respectfully. You know, besides Disney trying to trademark the holiday, even though it isn't... Oh, fucking... Never mind. Anyways, this movie's just solid, honestly. It's a great movie. I think the only problem it has is that I didn't really like the twist villain, and I think the middle portion, besides some key moments, was just kind of average. But that ending, it was really good. This is a solid top of the B tier movie. Incredibles 2. Ladies and gentlemen, we got it. We got a movie to finally join Bug's Life in the F tier range. Because, oh my god, how do you fuck up a sequel this badly? Holy shit. Okay, this movie on its own, it's decent, okay? If I was ranking it just as a decent movie on its own, it would just be like a D tier movie. Maybe even top of the D tier. But because it's connected to the first movie, and it utterly fails and ruins the world building and just makes all the characters worse and adds a bunch of stupid shit to it that didn't need to be added, it's going in F tier. This movie legitimately pisses me off. Like, I don't like it. Also, that's not even mentioning shit like the villain, which is one of the most poorly written twist villains I've seen since fucking Hans in Frozen. Like, holy shit, the Screenslaver, or whatever his stupid-ass name was, is such a terribly written character. Alright, Toy Story 4! Where to start? This movie ruins Toy Story 3's ending. It makes Buzz into a complete moron and ruins his character. They brought back Bo Peep, but they kind of didn't bring back Bo Peep because she's not even the original Bo Peep. She's a completely different character, which that's not really a criticism of the movie itself. It's more of a criticism about how her character was just kind of bland. So they just basically replaced her with a new character. And even then, she's not really that interesting. She went from Woody's love interest, who walks around daintily, to action girl. And that's basically it. She doesn't really have much to that. Now, on its own, this wouldn't be an issue, because if they were going for the idea that her being a lost toy developed her into this action girl persona, then that would make total sense. But there's a prologue at the beginning of this film that shows her acting like that before she's a lost toy, so instead of it feeling natural, it just feels like it comes out of nowhere. The animation's good. I think the side characters are pretty annoying, though. Now, I thought the carnival plush toys voiced by Key and Peele were pretty funny. Those scenes with them managed to get a laugh out of me. But I mean, come on, it's fucking Key and Peele. Of course their scenes would have the best jokes. I also found Forky really underdeveloped, and while I found his whole shtick pretty funny in the beginning, but it got old really quickly, and the film knows this because it drops it after about the first 10 minutes of the movie, and then after that, Forky is just kinda there. He's kinda just a plot device. The only reason Woody goes inside of the antique store is to get Forky back, and that escalates the plot. So, other than those brief moments in the beginning where it's kind of funny, Forky really doesn't serve a purpose in this film. And then the rest of the side characters, I either just didn't find funny, or they were just straight up annoying. Like, the Keanu Reeves guy, I forget what his name is, but like, I don't know, his bit was just not that funny in my opinion. I don't know, to each their own, I guess. I thought the villain was just kinda I didn't really like it that much. She had a decent backstory, but for the most part, I don't know, I just didn't really feel anything watching this movie. It just I don't even know. Honestly, it's just bad, honestly. I don't like it. Alright, here we go. Onward. This movie gets a lot of shit for no goddamn reason at all. I get that people don't like Chris Pratt, and some people don't like Tom Holland, but come on, guys. It's not that bad of a movie. You know what? Fuck you guys. I'm gonna put Onward above Toy Story 2. But yeah, people for some reason just don't like this movie, and I honestly don't see why. Because, yeah, it's a little tropey with just its road trip tropes, but I think it's pretty interesting because it actually has a very unique world setting of medieval stuff meeting modern stuff. Surprisingly enough, this doesn't really date the movie. You don't have a scene of, like, the character sitting down and be like, whoa, look at my Snapchats and, selfies and emojis. You don't get shit like that, you know? This isn't Ralph Breaks the Internet. But it's just a good movie, honestly. I think its emotional core is really good. And honestly, I think it has a really interesting idea of the two brothers, with one of them who never knew the dad, while the other one never got to say goodbye, so they have different reasons for wanting to see the dad again. And that ending, I thought it was actually really well done. It's just a good movie, honestly. I don't get why people hate this. I mean, I do agree that they could have done a bit more with the premise of the world of modern technology meets medieval shit, but for the most part, I think they do it pretty well. And you can tell that they weren't really trying to do a big, grand journey. They were just trying to tell a simple little story, because it's just nice. It's a very human story, despite not having humans in it. Alright, Soul. Okay, this one, a good movie. It's got really good backgrounds, and I think the Soul dimension has really cool animation. I like how they incorporate 2D elements into it. But I gotta say, it does kind of drag out a bit, especially in the second half, where you just kind of have them walking around, getting into hijinks and stuff. And just like Coco, however, which is kind of similar to this movie, because these are both movies about death, the middle portion of the movie is kind of boring, but features key moments of the film that I think are really good. One scene that comes to mind specifically is the barbershop scene, or the scene where he's getting his suit done. Those moments are so well done, but they are just that moments, because the rest of the film really does hinder a bit when it comes to its pacing, because the first half is, the first 5 minutes is the setup, and then the main character fucking dies, and then we spend like 20 minutes in the Soul dimension, and then we go back to Earth for some Earth shenanigans, and then we get those few good scenes, and then we get the ending, which just kind of felt rushed. And honestly, I think the ending, like, literally, like, the last 2 minutes kind of felt a bit empty, honestly. Like, I think there should have been something different done. But for the most part, I think it was a good movie, but I do have some problems with it, which is why it's going at the top of the C tier. So, I did like it more than Inside Out, but it has similar problems to that, except for the one main problem with Inside Out, where I didn't really feel any emotion towards it. Alright, Luca! This movie's good, honestly. I like it. We're just gonna put it in B tier. I think it's a really nice, down-to-earth story. It's got some funny-ass moments, and its animation is phenomenal, honestly. I love the cartoony style that they went for with this one. Sure, it's not realistic, and you can't count each individual blade of grass on screen, but I think cartoony, in my opinion, is superior to realistic animation. I know, shocker coming from me, right? But yeah, it's just a good movie, honestly. Like, sure, it doesn't really have that high stakes, but it's just a simple little movie. Like, I think it's good, but nothing too exceptional. It's just good all around, and it has some phenomenal animation. Alright, here we are, finale of the tier list. This movie right here is a bit controversial, and by controversial, I of course mean people who are in their late 20s, early 30s saying how it's not relatable, so that makes it bad automatically, or complaining about all of that. Now, I think it's important that we discuss the elephant in the room, and that is the fact that this movie openly just talks about puberty in ways that no other film that's intended for kids does. And honestly, I gotta commend the film for this, because it treats all the topics it talks about just like it's a normal thing. It doesn't build up to it, it doesn't make it a big thing, it just happens. And with people I've talked to about this film, that's one of the aspects that we can all agree that is probably one of the best aspects of this film. And one of the main things that makes it a talking point is that a lot of people, mainly parents, don't want to have their kids see that. Now, I guess I get this, but it's just like a natural part of life that they'll have to deal with later on. So why not teach them early so that it won't seem like that big, huge obstacle to come over, and it will just be integrated, that it's a normal thing. I can commend the film for doing this, because then it teaches to normalize these things, because for some reason, when it comes to media about puberty, mainly female puberty, it basically is treated like a taboo subject when it really shouldn't, because if guys' puberty can just be done, no questions asked, nobody freak out, then why is it treated any different when it's suddenly a gender swap? It should just be treated like a normal thing, you know, like how it is. Just a good movie, honestly. And it's like Luca, how it has cartoony animation, but it has a very grounded story. And also, it's about a red panda, honestly. I fucking love red pandas. They're my favorite animal. And the combination of a down-to-earth story set in the early 2000s with a red panda in it, and it just makes for a good movie. I liked it. And also, I think it's got some great messages about parenting. Yeah, it's a solid movie overall. I think my only real problem is that some jokes do fall flat, or a few moments were a bit annoying or in your face about it being in the 2000s. But besides that, I like this movie. It was great movie. Great way to end off the tier list. Alright, here it is. This is the final tier list. From top to bottom, this is my official tier list, and the ranking basically goes like this. Each row, the one closest to the letter is the top, and so these are the top of the tier list, and then this is like the next row of it. So basically, this is like my order of the ranking of these films, if you're curious of the exact ranking. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the tier list. I hope it gave you a good idea of what I look for in movies if I decide to do any more review type things. So yeah, that should be every Pixar film ranked. Hopefully, despite all the numerous delays this video got, I managed to release this at a point where there are no upcoming Pixar films that will release in the following week or two that will make this video instantly outdated. Oh god fucking